Hola, bienvenido cohort. It's Jeanniece here to show you how to use the Google Translate app. The Google Translate app is a wonderful tool to use if you need a quick translation for a word or phrase in English to Spanish or from Spanish to English. There's also some other neat features that I'll show you that work great for live conversation when more than one person is speaking in a different language and you need interpretation, as well as translating signs that are in a different language. Let me show you how it works. First, I'm going to click on my App Store and I'm going to type out the words Google Translate. If you scroll down to where you see it listed, you'll see a button that says Open. Now, if you don't have it already downloaded on your phone, this button will instead say Download, and you'll want to follow the steps to download it onto your phone. After you download it, then you'll want to go ahead and open the app. So you'll want to go to the screen where it shows the words enter text. And the best way to explain this feature is to give you a little bit of context, a little bit of background information. So the whole idea behind Google Translate is it is a language tool, not just for English and Spanish, but for any language. So first you have to decide what language do you want to speak in. Well, I'm going to be asking my questions in English, and so you see that it's already set on English. Now, let's say I wanted to talk in Spanish. I could click it and choose Spanish, but I'm going to speak in English. And since I want my translation to be in Spanish, I'll keep it on Spanish. But if I want to, I can click Spanish and have my English words translated to any language that's available. I'm going to exit out here, and I'm going to show you how this works. So I'm going to type out the phrase, how are you? I'm then going to hit the blue circle with the arrow inside of it, which is essentially the enter button. And there you go. It shows you the Spanish translation of the question, how are you? Which is, ¿Cómo estás? If you want Google Translate to tell you how to pronounce whatever you just translated, you'll want to hit the speakerphone button that is directly below the translation.
¿Cómo estás?
And that's what it sounds like when Google Translate gives you the pronunciation of whatever you just translated. If you scroll further down the page, you will see there are alternate translations of how to say whatever it is you put in. So in this case, I put in the question, how are you? And it's showing you different ways to say that in Spanish. For example, if you want to sound more cool, you could say, ¿Qué tal? Which translates to, what's up? I'm now going to hit the new translation button to show you how to do the reverse. In other words, I'm about to show you how to write something in Spanish and get the English translation. What's really cool is Google Translate makes this really easy. You see the two arrows that are going in different directions in between the words English and Spanish? Well, that's actually a button. And once you click it, it switches your input and output languages. So Google Translate now recognizes that what you're typing is going to be in Spanish, and it will then give you an English translation. So I'm going to click where it says enter text, and I'm going to type out que hora, oops, que hora es. I'm going to hit my enter button, which again is the blue circle with the arrow inside, and there it is. It gives me the translation of what que hora es means in English, which is what time is it? Now, if you look further down the page, you will see that only one solution is given for this translation, and that is because que hora es is one of the most common ways of asking what time is it in Spanish. So there are no alternative translations provided. All right, I'm going to show you two more neat features before I let you go, which will become in handy as you continue to learn Spanish. If you look in the lower left-hand side of the screen where it says conversation. That is an awesome feature that you can use if you want to have a conversation with someone and you're each speaking in your own language. Once you hit that button, the microphone will automatically turn on and it will begin to translate what it hears. So the first step before you hit that button is to make sure you have the first language that you're going to speak in as the input language. So, for example, I'm about to have a conversation with someone who only speaks Spanish. I'm going to be the one to start the conversation. So, in this case, I'm going to hit those arrows in between what now reads English and Spanish to make sure that the microphone recognizes the first voice it will hear is English, and so it will then provide a Spanish translation. Let me show you how this works. I'm going to click the button above where it says conversations with the two people in the circle. How are you?
¿Cómo estás?
You see how that worked? I spoke in English, and not only did it show the print translation, but it also speaks out loud automatically for the person I'm speaking with to hear. The microphone also automatically turned off because I'm done speaking. Now, if you want the other person to speak, let's pretend like this is a native Spanish speaker who doesn't speak English. You're going to allow them to speak, but there's something you have to do first. Look at the bottom of the screen on the right hand side where it says Español. Español is how you say Spanish in Spanish. And so the microphone under that is what you would press to allow them to speak in Spanish so that Google Translate can give you the English translation. So let me show you how that works. I'm going to press the microphone under where it says Español. I'm going to speak in Spanish, and you're going to watch it give an English translation. Estoy bien, gracias.
I'm fine, thanks.
See how that worked? I spoke in Spanish, and Google Translate not only printed out what I was trying to say in English, but also spoke it out loud automatically for the other person to hear. Now, what about if you both want to talk in a continuous conversation and not have to keep stopping and starting with pushing the microphone? Well, Google has a really cool feature. If you look down at the middle of the screen at the very bottom, in smaller print where it says both, there is a smaller microphone right in the middle with a couple stars around it. That microphone is for the both feature where both of you can talk. But here are some key tips that you need to follow in order for this to work correctly. Number one, you have to recognize that in either any mode, whether texting, translations, or you're using the microphones, sometimes Google Translate doesn't get it right. If you're speaking too softly, if you are not enunciating your words correctly, sometimes it gives poor translations. And so, for that reason, whenever you use Google Translate, don't assume that you have the right answer. Do some more research, ask someone who speaks Spanish natively, or look online, use Google, use YouTube, try and find some other sources to corroborate whether or not the translation that Google Translate gave you is accurate. I will say, in my professional experience, more times than not, Google Translate either gives you a good translation or something close that you can use, but again, it's not always correct. So, again, use this with a grain of salt and know that it's not the perfect answer for everything. Secondly, as I mentioned, it's very important that you speak slowly and that you enunciate your words very carefully because the microphone can only pick up what it thinks it discerns, but if it can't understand you, it may give you the wrong translation. And then thirdly, when you are talking with someone using the both feature, you have to take turns talking. If you talk over each other, the system can get confused and not kick out the right response. So the microphone will automatically stay on, but you have to take turns speaking. Let me demonstrate how this works. I'll pretend to be both an English speaker and a Spanish speaker having a conversation back and forth. I will do this by first pushing the button where it says both, little small microphone with the stars around it, and you'll see how it works. Hi, how are you?
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Estoy bien, gracias.
I'm fine, thanks.
¿Cómo estuve tu día?
How was your day?
My day was great.
Mi día fue genial.
Talk with you later.
Habla contigo más tarde.
Adios.
Bye bye.
And that's how that works. Now, it's important that after you all are done speaking, you go ahead and hit the microphone underneath the word both just to make it turn off. That way, it doesn't continue to translate when you no longer need the feature. All right, you've got this down packed. Now, one last cool feature that will come in handy when you need to interpret signs that are in a different language. Now, I don't have any Spanish signs in my office, but I do have one sign that's in English, and it'll work just as well. Basically, I'm going to show you the feature on here where if you point your camera at a sign that you want translated into a different language, it'll automatically translate it for you. This works great if you're in a place where you need a sign to be translated into the language of your preference. So, what you're going to do is make sure the input and output languages are correct. In this case, it's an English sign I want translated into Spanish. And so the fact that English is shown as my input language on the screen and Spanish is the output language is fine. I'm going to hit the camera button, which is found if you look on the right hand side of the screen all the way down at the bottom. There's the word camera, and above it is a circle with a camera inside of it. You're going to click that button and point it at the sign that you want translated. And automatically it gives you the translation. So this sign originally said, perhaps this is the moment for which you were created, Esther 4 and 14, which is a Bible verse. And it gives me now the Spanish translation, which is, quizás ese sea el momento para el cual fuiste criado, Esther 4 and 14. That's how it works. Now, mind you, if this was a sign that was in Spanish and you want it translated into English, you could go back and switch the input language so that it would give you the English translation. I hope this is helpful.